Welcome back to Wired to Run, the ADHD-fueled running podcast where our shoes hit the pavement and the dopamine hits just right. Hi, friends. Welcome to Wired to Run. We're Laura and Will, and in this episode, we're taking a bit of a deeper dive and opening up about why this podcast matters to us and the purpose behind creating it.
This podcast exists to inspire you through real stories of runners with ADHD who struggle, adapt, and keep showing up anyway. We offer insights into the ADHD mind so you can feel seen, understood, and less alone in how you train, think, and live.
And we create inclusion, a place where ADHD runners belong and are celebrated for how they're wired and are reminded they were made to run. As you may have heard in our first episode, I was diagnosed with ADHD later in life, a lot later in life. And I wanted to take a bit of a deeper dive into that story. So first two episodes were a little bit more fun, and I didn't want to get too heavy early on, but I think it's really important to share our why and share why it's really important to us and why we're passionate about it. So I decided to get tested as an adult after my kids were diagnosed with ADHD. As they grew, I started noticing many similarities between my kids' struggles and my own experiences growing up. And the things they found really hard as kids and teens were very much the same things I struggle with. Mm-hmm. That realization eventually led me to take the leap and go through the full, very rigorous assessment process. And that assessment process is over several days, several sessions with a neuropsychologist and testing. There's like a testing assessment assessor person, a lot of cognitive tests, attention tests, interviews. It's really incredible how deep it's exhausting, taking time off from work and you're just so exhausted because your brain is just fried. They tested my IQ and things like that. And, you're pretty much done by the end of the day. And they kind of space it out. They do a couple of days in a row and then you come back the next week and because you're just fried at the end. But they want to get a really good picture of what they're looking at. So, I'm really glad I did it because I know without a shadow of a doubt, that I do have ADHD. So, but when I received my diagnosis, it was textbook ADHD. I remember a doctor telling me, there's really no doubt, like you're, it's 100% you're ADHD. And I'll be honest with you, it came with a mix of emotions I did not bank on having. So there was a lot of relief. First feeling was relief, finally knowing that I wasn't broken. And even though for so much of my life I felt lost, and because of the challenges that have come with ADHD, what I learned was simple but powerful, that I just wasn't broken. I was just wired differently. And I think nowadays it's more acceptable. It's more socially acceptable. Mental health is a priority now, which is great. 10 years ago, even, it was almost taboo to talk about, certain things, in regards to mental health and whether somebody is diagnosed with ADHD or other neurodivergent, when our kids got tested. Yeah. A lot of our friends didn't share when their kids had autism or ADHD and things like that. So I'm so glad that we can be open and honest about it, and people embrace that truth, of their diagnosis. So I was very relieved to get that information and know that I wasn't, defective. That was huge. In many ways, that understanding really helped me empathize with our kids on a much, much deeper level. I've always empathized with them when they struggled. You know, we have a teenager and a little one, and knowing that, seeing their struggles, you know, with different things and seeing them excel at things and celebrating that, we've been able to do that and be there for them. But also having the diagnosis and making those connections and connecting those dots, having it yourself, and kind of almost like a reflection, looking in the mirror and seeing yourself back in them, you kind of empathize on a deeper level. So I think that was kind of a gift in a way, you know, to have that connection with them. But it also opened a door for grief. So on the flip side, I grieved for that little girl, you know, me as a little girl who felt like she wasn't good enough. You know, I grieved for the years where advocacy and support could have made a difference had we known sooner. But it was a different time.
Yeah.
And the 80s and the 90s, you know, it was different. And while you can't live in the past, my family and I did, you know, what we could with the information we had, you know. So a lot of kids didn't get tested, especially girls did not get tested for ADHD in the 80s and 90s. And my parents did a great job. My family did a great job of supporting me in the best way they could. Had I grown up this day and age, I would have gotten that support and advocacy, because kids are tested now. Yeah. So it's looking back, you kind of, you know, go, wow, like I could have gotten so many supports if I grew up, you know, now, and knowing how hard I fight for my kids and how hard you fight for kids, and, you know, stand up for them, and, you know, in the school, you know, and with teachers, and partner with the teachers and everything, to give them the best education we can. And, I wish I had the opportunities that my kids have, and fighting for them. I know my family would have done the same if we had the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So that grief is real. You know, you kind of go, oh wow, got this connection now. I know what's going on. I'm not broken. I'm just wired differently. And then you kind of go, oh my gosh, all these years have gone by and I didn't know, and I could have done something, but I really couldn't have. And you just feel kind of like a weird limbo and grief. So it's really weird, strange, at least for me. I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, a mix of emotions. But, you know, I allowed myself to feel it all. And, you know, after processing all of it, I began to truly embrace my ADHD, because there are so many strengths that come with it, like innovation and creativity and high energy, like the endless energy. You know, like I don't ever run out of energy.
No, you don't. And neither do our kids.
Like I could put 27 tasks on my to-do list and knock them all out, like one after another, like hyper-focus, hyperfixation and focus of getting it all done. Sometimes you even neglect, like, oh, I didn't eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
But I got everything else on my list done.
You're always like, go, stop and get something for breakfast and lunch. Yeah, the spontaneity, the resilience, you know, the drive. Definitely a very, very driven person. You know, my career and anything I'm very passionate about, I'm all in 100%.
Oh, yeah.
In relationships, friendships, I'm 100% in. I'm either all in or all out. There's no lukewarm with me. And that's very typical of most people with ADHD. As I was kind of diving in and reading everything I could about the diagnosis, all, you know, medical books and, you know, all kinds of authors that have ADHD, or, you know, clinicians and physicians and, you know, psychologists. It's wild how much I fit the bill. And how proud I was of like some of the strengths. I'm like, yeah, heck yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm a natural problem solver, highly analytical and detail oriented. And really incredible at recognizing patterns and thinking outside the box. It kind of comes naturally to me. I see like bigger picture and detail at the same time. I would say like it's one of those pictures back in the 80s, if you remember, like it was like kind of like all these like weird patterns, like the warped picture. It looks like like this snowy TV back in the day, but you stared at it long enough, you could see the picture come out. Yeah. It's like that, like in life, like you could just see like everything kind of come live and come out. Like it's just, you can see the big picture and the detail all at one time. Yeah. So that kind of is a gift, to you know, have that kind of vision. And then, having that, thriving in chaos that comes naturally to me when other people shut down, fast-paced environments, thriving in fast-paced environments and high achievers and calm in emergencies, deeply attuned to people around me and reading the room. These are all things that, I've embodied all my life, but, things that a lot of people with ADHD have. And a lot of friends that have ADHD have some very, very similar traits and strengths. So it's really interesting. So it's not all doom and gloom. We have so many powerful strengths, and this podcast exists to reframe that narrative. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you mentioned the highly analytical, you're very detail oriented, you're a high achiever, very definitely. And I think what's interesting is being able to see like the big picture, but also being able to get into the details, because usually people are one or the other.
Yeah.
Usually people are either very like, I can see the big picture, I kind of know where I want to go, but I don't know all the steps to get there. Or you have that person that can really see the details. You tell them what it is that you want to achieve, and they can literally make a plan. But it's very rare, and you're one of those people that have that gift of being able to do both. And yeah, it's amazing, and yeah, you're very high energy. Yeah, the way that you can just keep going and going, it's very inspiring.
Oh, thanks. Energizer Bunny, right?
Yeah, you are.
I think I need it to keep up with our kids. So, what it was.
This is true. Absolutely.
No, you've hit a lot of these traits too. So even though you haven't been officially diagnosed, you've seen a lot of some of those traits, challenges and strengths too. So
absolutely.
So, one thing I wanted to kind of mention was, before I became a runner, I'll be honest with you, I saw it as an elite sport. Something I would not touch or go near, like super intimidating, way out of my reach. I've been, if you remember, we were living out of state, and I had the opportunity to run like the half marathon, and I was like, there's no way, like I'm not a runner. I can't run. Like I was intimidated by a 5K, and those are for professional athletes, So it was way out of my league, and I had a lot of just chatter in my mind about what I could and couldn't do. A lot of noise about, my abilities and things like that. And a lot of it kind of stemmed from, I'd been a fair weather fan of many pursuits, diving into new endeavors with enthusiasm only to kind of lose interest just as quickly. I would be worried, that running would be no different. I remember, my mom would be like, oh, you didn't go into extremes, you're interested in this thing, and then you wouldn't be interested in any more. And it was kind of funny, and it was like kind of like a long running joke, and I would laugh, like, oh yeah, like I would be, why am I like so all in with this one hobby, and I'd buy everything about, the hobby, and then totally lose interest and burn out really, really fast. You're raising your hand. You can't see this, folks, but my husband is raising his hand. He's does this too. But yeah, Yeah, I did that, but not knowing that is very typical of ADHD. Um, so I was really fearful with running. It would be the same thing because it was something that I really wanted to get into, was really nervous about. Um, so my ADHD mind thrived on novelty, essentially. And I'd jump in with both feet, fully committed. And within weeks, the excitement would fade and I'd move on to the next thing. So, and I know I'm not alone in feeling this way. Many people view running the same way. I once did, afraid it would be like another flash in the pan. So why even try?
Yeah.
So even when, deep down you feel completely, wired to do it.
Yeah.
It's real tug-of-war. It's a constant mental tug-of-war paired with insecurity, has kept so many people away from running. They want to do it. They feel like they're wired to do it, but they're scared they're going to give it up or lose interest. So, but for the ADHD mind, running often does the opposite. It brings clarity and it makes things make sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
People with ADHD often feel, a deep pull towards running long before they even lace up. That pull is met with that fear, not because they're not capable, but that doubt, because of the lack of their follow through. So they kind of almost like self-sabotage, and it's unfortunate. So,
but I do think it's interesting that you mentioned that mental tug of war and how, you lace up the shoes and you start to go out there and you start, getting the miles in, and running for a lot of us is very individual. It's a very solitude type of environment. And like you said, I think sometimes when you're out there, you start thinking clearly, you start really just enjoying the moment. It's almost like things turn off.
Right.
And what's kind of cool about that is once you start to experience that and you start having that experience every time that you're out there, it actually becomes that reward. It actually makes you want to go and do it over and over and over again.
Exactly. It's that those dopamine hits, you're rewarding yourself with the dopamine, that accomplishment when you're done your run there's nothing like it, that's the structure and the commitment though, sometimes that scares you. These are all things that are challenges that we want to acknowledge, that are fears that folks might have out there, that they're nervous about starting a training plan. They're nervous about getting out there, getting off the couch. We want to acknowledge these things. And the main reason is because, yes, there are challenges with ADHD, but it doesn't have to hold you back. And if you have a passion for it, you're excited for it, to try running, to try walking, to try run walking. Don't let your challenges hold you back.
No, I completely agree on that one. And, it's kind of funny that you mentioned having that pull to be a runner, but being nervous about, is this something I'm going to continue with? Some other fears is just the structure and the commitment.
Yep, exactly.
When it comes to running, because when you're running, it's like, all right, cool. I've got running plans. I got schedules. I got miles I have to hit. Even races, could feel very rigid and overwhelming to someone with ADHD that really wants to have that flexibility, that autonomy. I control, what I want to do. And even something as simple as having to run on certain days can turn something that is very freeing into something that feels like pressure or obligation, things that really kill that motivation. And I know even myself, when you have that training plan, it's like, okay, I'm supposed to run Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And it's like, but we've got XYZ coming up on Tuesday, or the kids have something on Thursday, or families in town, or whatnot. And it's like, I need to get out there and run.
Yeah.
So, that's something that hits me a lot.
Yeah.
And then even the fear of not being good at it right away. And
that's a good one.
Yeah, I think that's something that hits me as well. This is becoming a podcast that I'm going to listen to a couple of times. But with ADHD, it really comes with a history of being told you're either too much, you're too slow, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
And again, running, it's a tough sport. I think, I forgot where I heard it, but it's like nobody ever plays running. You play baseball,
Yeah.
you play football, you play basketball. Nobody goes out and says, what are you going to do today? I'm going to go play running.
Yeah.
Running's tough.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they hear, oh, you're a runner, they view it as like an elite or, a very competitive sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we do that to ourselves. I mean, think about it. Every time you do a race, there's times, there's,
Mm-hmm.
Age groups. So it can very easily trigger,
Yeah. Competition.
that competition, comparing yourself to someone,
Yep.
trying to be perfect. And, you look at it like, if you can't do it well immediately, it's just
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, okay, well, why bother? Why should I even try?
Yep.
And I know I fall under that a lot because, being a slower runner, I check my times, I check the age groups and,
Mm-hmm.
but, I have to remind myself, slow down. You're an amateur. You're doing this for fun.
Yeah.
And when you're on the race course, I'm not really thinking of time. I'm just thinking of enjoying doing the miles and doing something that I love.
Being healthy too.
Being healthy,
To be
yeah.
around longer for our kids. And for
Absolutely.
me. Yeah. That's good. That's a bonus. It's great that you mentioned that about the comparison and what are people thinking, because that kind of segues into something that's really important that I want to talk about. That's something that's kind of, I don't know if it's new. It's new to me, at least. I've been reading a lot about, I've been seeing in social media a lot, people that I follow, on ADHD pages and things like that, reading ton about rejection sensitive dysphoria. I think it's called RSD. People with ADHD experience this or have this, which basically means their brain reacts to the possibility of rejection as if it was a real and serious threat. And even small things like someone, watching them and like a comment might be negative or like they're not performing well enough, it can trigger intense shame or embarrassment or anxiety, that, it it could kind of derail them big time, and it'll cause them emotional pain. So it's not, overreacting on purpose. The emotional response is pretty fast and it's kind of automatic and overwhelming. So, running, puts a person in a very visible situation.
Absolutely.
So you're very vulnerable in those situations. You're kind of, like I said earlier, out on display, being seen while you're moving slowly, at least for me, especially when coach has us walking a lot of miles when we're doing simulations, several day simulations. Like, oh, they're probably thinking, I'm, slacking or something, but coach made me do it.
I can show you my plan.
Yeah, I'll show you my training plan. He made me do it. Doing what he told me to do. Getting out of breath, comparing yourself to others, like people on the trail, like I mentioned earlier. You're imagining judgment. Your imagination is running away from you, and you're imagining judgment from strangers. So for someone with ADHD and RSD, that inner dialogue isn't just like, what if I'm bad at this? It becomes like, what if people think I'm bad, too slow or lazy? That imagined rejection feels so painful that, your brain tries to protect itself by avoiding the activity altogether.
Sure.
So, even if they want to run, if somebody wants to run, enjoying movement, that emotional cost feels way too high.
Absolutely.
So the barrier isn't laziness or lack of discipline. It's emotional self-defense. So, hence why we're building a community. It's incredibly important, whether it's through, our podcast or your local running community, a social media group. We need to have a place where those who have ADHD feel like they belong. It's so important.
Absolutely. I agree. And it actually flows even further than running. It's that mindset can also creep into whether it's work,
Hmm.
other endeavors. No one ever wants to be the beginner.
Hmm.
Nobody ever wants to be that one that, that you think is
Hmm.
holding people back. But when you really think about it, no matter what level you are, whether you're an Olympic athlete, whether you're a professional athlete,
Hmm.
whether you're just the coach of the running club or someone that's done a 10K while you're training for a 5K, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is usually, and I would say most of the time, when it comes to running clubs and pretty much anything where there's a learning curve,
Hmm.
the people that can teach you are more than willing
Yeah.
to teach you, and they're willing to take you under their wing
Yeah.
and guide you and help you.
Exactly. I will tell you, I've been part of running clubs, virtual running clubs, even just, the Run Disney community. There's people of all shapes and
Hmm.
sizes,
Yeah,
abilities, you know, neurotypical, neurodivergent, all kinds of people.
yeah,
Everybody embraces everyone. It's
absolutely.
incredible. I mean, I've never felt so accepted and loved for who I am. Um, and even when I have gyms here that I'm part of, and people are just so accepting. There's something about, being a part of a group, fitness group, running group. People want to see other people succeed,
Oh, absolutely.
so the intimidation a lot of time is in our minds.
Yeah,
And these are challenges that come along sometimes with the diagnosis. And we we got to work on not letting that hold us back from achieving the things we want to achieve.
absolutely. And just put a little cherry on top. 9 times out of 10, people are very willing to help
Yeah.
because we've all been there.
Yep.
But if you do run into that one jerk, that one bad person, that bad seed,
Yeah.
just ignore that person
Yeah.
because you're going to find 9 other people that are going to
Yeah.
embrace you.
Exactly. Um, you know, Despite all those challenges, you are uniquely wired for running. You know, the rhythm, the repetition, the sensory input, the way it burns off excess energy, at least for me, it does. It acquires that mental chatter, that mental, noise in your mind. Running can improve your dopamine levels, clarity, emotional regulation, which is huge. Everything that's going on in the world today, it'll help your emotional regulation. That's super, super important. Um,
Absolutely.
and a rare sense of being fully present in the body, that mind body connection, you know? So that's why desire is there in the first place. So I just kind of want to mention that. And the fear really isn't a sign that running isn't for people with ADHD. It's often a sign that it is, and that it matters enough to feel vulnerable. So just keep that in mind.
Hmm.
So once that fear is met with permission to start imperfectly without rules or expectations, running often becomes not just sustainable, but actually grounding. So for many ADHD minds, it's not just another hobby, it's home. And I say this because running has become home for me and for so many friends that are neurodivergent, people with autism and ADHD. I've seen people find so much happiness,
Oh, yeah.
and their mental health has gotten so much better. I've seen friends, you know, um, depression improve from running. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, it's home. Why, when I get injured, when hurt my PCL,
Mhm.
and I fell on my knee and I hurt my PCL for 6 months. I was not easy to live with. Well,
It's like, I'm not sure how to respond to
I
that.
was kind of grouchy. No,
You were great.
I feel incredible when I come back from a run.
You do. And I will say, not to jump in, but,
Yeah.
you know, with some of your training runs when I'm with you,
Yeah.
those are some of the best times.
Oh, thank you. Back at you. I love running with you. It's so much fun. I always tell Holly, my running bestie, how much fun I have with you. So she's so much fun too. Like we have the best time too, but it's
Far more
awesome.
fun.
It's just, we have such a blast together. We laugh a lot and everything, because it's great to have a husband that you're best friends with too. And you really enjoy their company too. But, but when you get injured and you get hurt, like that's how you really love your sport, when you're like really like you're sad, you like look out the window and you see those memes or like somebody stare at the window, you're watching the people running by. If it's like rest day, you're like sad because you're resting. But it
You're
really
thinking of Chandler with the like the rain or whatever it was in that episode.
Oh, is it Ross? Ross. Yeah. But that's the thing that I just want to kind of like hit home. Like we're going to have some fun episodes where we're going to talk about fun top 10 stuff, and we're going to have guests on. I'm going to have my running bestie on. I believe next episode, maybe, we're going to talk about like neurodivergent running and neurotypical runner and how we make that magic work in our running, partnership. And, we're going to have some funny things and educational stuff. And then we're going to have some serious stuff too, where we talk about this kind of things, but main goal, our main mission is we know ADHD can make everything more challenging, but, it doesn't have to be, running doesn't have to be challenging. It doesn't have to be difficult. We believe that you are wired to run.
Absolutely.
So that's our goal is showing you that life, it can be challenging. Having ADHD can be challenging, but being a runner with ADHD doesn't have to be. And we're here to share our experiences. We're here to bring, people we know, people we, look up to and admire on our podcast that have been there and have great solutions, may help others, get through this. So we hope you tune in and enjoy it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, we're not giving advice. We're just sharing our experiences and the experience of those that we know and how we've all overcome those challenges.
That's true.
This podcast is here to inspire you through those real stories of runners with ADHD, stories of miscues when motivation is messy, and often it is, and the path isn't linear. Usually it's not.
Yeah.
But we are resilient and we run with our wiring and not against it.
Oh, I love that.
We want to share insight into the ADHD mind and not looking at it as a limitation, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different wiring, one that brings a different intensity, a different creativity and strength to the runs. And, we're building a community where ADHD runners are reminded that we're not broken. We're not behind. We're just wired differently, wired together and wired to run. And of course, if there's any topics that you would like to cover, please comment below or send us an email at laceup@wiredtorun.com.
Yes, please send us emails if there's something that you want to hear about. If you want us to bring on maybe a guest to interview, there's a topic you want to hear more about, let us know, because we want to hear what you want to hear about. So this is definitely a niche area, ADHD runners, and I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of us out there, in our running community. It's really surprising to find out how many of us are diagnosed and we're chasing that dopamine.
And how many of us probably aren't diagnosed, but have it.
Yeah, exactly. So we're so happy you joined us today. And
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, you got this. Don't let anything hold you back. You got this. And lace up and lock in, and let's go the distance, guys. Have a good one.